270 Park Avenue is Manhattan's newest skyscraper, sitting at a height of 1,388 feet. The building is covered in these large diamond braces and articulated on the ground with these massive fan columns. To understand how and why the building looks like this, I'm going to take you underneath and inside the skyscraper so we can break down the site constraints and structural behaviors that gave Manhattan's newest building its signature shape. This is 270 Park Avenue Engineered. Hi, my name is Matt, and if you're new to this channel, I make videos about structural engineering, and today I'm going to be talking about Manhattan's newest skyscraper at 270 Park Avenue. Now, there are some really interesting structural components going on in this building. For example, we have the large diamond braces, and then we have these large fan columns at the base that collect all the load and bring it down to the foundation. So in this video, I want to explore each of these shapes and discuss why they were put there in the first place and what some of the interesting structural behaviors we have going on. A quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Brilliant. I'm going to talk about them a little bit later in the video, but if you're interested in them, then make sure to check the link down in the description or the QR code on the screen for a 20% off discount on a premium subscription. Now let's get back to our skyscraper and discuss why these shapes are put there in the first place. Back in 2021, I went poking around the construction site to see what was going on. The fan columns were up and the first tier of the building was making its way up, so you could really get a sense of just how big this building was going to be. Today, the columns at the base look a bit more beefy now that they're covered up, but the effect is still the same. All 93,000 tons of steel funnel down to just a few points at ground level. And while the fan columns get all the attention, we need to peek inside to get a fuller picture of how this building works. I tried going into the lobby to get a nice picture of these columns, but apparently you're not allowed to do that because it's a private building, which was really annoying. But you can see through the doors and the windows, this row of V columns running east to west. These are parallel to the fan columns outside, and they hold up a structure that's known as the tabletop. The tabletop is essentially a large 3-story podium that holds up the entire building. It's kind of like all those standard podium buildings you see popping up everywhere, the 5-over ones, but in this case, it's the 60 over that one tabletop. The building sits on two 25-foot deep transfer girders that run across the length of the building and distribute the forces onto the V columns that are running inside of the lobby. Now this is all fun, but let's talk about why you would actually choose a tabletop structure. In this case, the tabletop lets the engineers take all of the forces of the main building and then funnel them down to the foundation at very specific points. And this is because there's a lot happening beneath the site at 270 Park Avenue. 270 Park Avenue was not always what it is today. Before its construction, it stood as the Union Carbide building for 60 years. Starting in 2019, this building was carefully deconstructed to make way for the new skyscraper, and while there are no visible traces of what used to sit here, engineers still had to contend with what was left underground, carefully placing all the new foundations around the existing ones. To make matters more complicated, these skyscrapers sit on a very challenging site, directly above Grand Central Station. The train sheds for the Long Island Railroad run directly beneath these blocks, and more recently, the new East Side Access project was completed, which sits even further below this site. If you're watching this video because you want to learn more about the world around you but don't necessarily have a technical background, then Brilliant could be for you. Brilliant is an online learning platform that has courses in math, reasoning, computer science, and more. Whether you're looking to build a better background in vectors and geometry, or looking to understand what AI is and how it works, Brilliant has a large course library with many good options to explore. You can approach Brilliant as a casual tool to keep your brain sharp, or as a platform to dig deeper on the topics that interest you. It can support both of your goals for whichever level of depth you're looking for. To learn for free on Brilliant for a full 30 days, go to brilliant.org/engineeredwithmatt. You can also scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the description. Brilliant's also offering our viewers 20% off of an annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited access to everything on Brilliant. So make sure to follow the link down in the description or the QR code on your screen if you're interested in this. Now I'll try and answer any more questions you have on this down in the comments, but let's get back with the rest of the video. The station underneath is confusing enough for passengers to navigate, and it also became a challenge for the engineers. Shear walls had to be placed carefully between all of the tracks, which means the majority of them run north to south. On the west end of the building, where the train shed stops being an issue, a large concrete box is created which acts as a collector for all the loads in the east and west directions. These north-south shear walls sit directly beneath the V columns. Then on the west end, we have our large concrete box. Then the V columns are laterally supported by the ground level PT slab. Then beneath this, we have a series of other slabs and our train tracks going through. I walked through the station to see if I could find any evidence of this foundation, but it was really hard to tell what exactly was going on. Here at the north end of the concourse, there are some large columns that I didn't see anywhere else that I think could be part of the building, but as I said, it's hard to tell. Then in the LIR train shed, there are some massive concrete walls in the back that generally align with the site and could be our shear walls, but that's for authorized personnel only, and I didn't want to disobey the transit staff that day, so this is all I could really see looking underneath. Looking back at our cross-section, let's walk through the load path of how these forces make their way down to the shear walls. So the vertical forces fall onto the transfer girders, which then bring them down to each of the V columns, which then distribute them down to our foundation walls. For horizontal forces, once they get introduced into the transfer girders, they'll move through the V columns in a similar way, but these foundation walls don't have much horizontal stability in this direction, so this ground level PT slab is going to tie all these V columns together. They then will transfer that force over to the concrete box on the west side, where the forces can move down to the foundation. Now let's look at the rest of the tower and how the forces make their way down here. We've got K-braces at each floor that make up our steel braced frame core. Then we have additional outrigger trusses at the mechanical floors, which add additional lateral stability. Now, adding in our shear walls at the foundation level, when we have a horizontal force, they're going to travel through these K-braces and ultimately collect down to the tabletop, where they're resisted by that east to west shear wall on the west end. You can see how these K-braces slowly migrate towards the west end so they can more easily transfer that force to the concrete box. The way that these two systems work together is we have our building with our braced core, and when the wind hits the building, it will travel over to the braces, then go down the leeward brace in compression, and travel all the way down to the foundation. This also pulls up at the windward brace in tension, and you get this force couple happening at the base. Now let's add a few more braces and build out an outrigger floor down here. When the wind hits this floor, it now has 3 braces to travel down and interact with. So when it hits this first brace, it's going to send the compression down this column line. And similarly, it's also going to pull up on these exterior columns. But if the floor is stiff enough, it will also engage all of the other braces, and suddenly all of the columns are now being used. This is the inherent advantage of an outrigger system, because with just the braced frame, only the columns at that central core are going to be pulled in to resist the wind, so a lot of force can build up there. While in the outrigger system, all of the columns can be pulled in, which more evenly distributes this force. The diamonds on the side of the building are macro braces that carry wind loads down the more slender side of the building. These winds will have 2 load paths to get to the ground. First, the outrigger trusses will bind the exterior columns of the building such that the wind will travel down the leeward side in compression and pull up on the windward side in tension. This is essentially turning the building into a large cantilevering beam resisting an overturning moment. These forces then travel down the sides of the building and go towards the foundation through the fan columns. Here, the fan columns push and pull at the shear walls and exert vertical forces due to the wind. The macro braces act as a secondary lateral load path for the wind forces to travel down and ultimately push at the foundation horizontally, where this horizontal force can now be cleanly transferred to the shear walls. At its base, the diamonds terminate with a large upside-down V shape, or a massive K-brace of their own to exert that force horizontally on the shear walls below. 270 Park Avenue is an impressive structure that owes a lot of its out-of-the-box structural elements to its complicated site conditions below. If you've been subscribed to my channel or have followed me over the years, you're familiar with trains creating some of our most impressive and unique structural systems. Hudson Yards in New York City is another good example and home to some equally challenging engineering. In Chicago, there's also 150 North Riverside owing its iconic slender base to the train lines running below. There's so much more to talk about with each of these examples, but that will have to wait for my next video. Thank you guys for watching. If there are any other buildings or structures out there that you would like me to cover, leave them down in the comments, and I love to hear all of your suggestions. Thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video.